Hello friends, today I am going to discuss about physiology in general, its branches and their specific role. The term physiology originated from the Greek word physiologikos, meaning discourse on natural knowledge. Physiology may be defined as the branch of science devoted to analyzing and gaining an understanding of the events and activities or the functioning of living systems. Physiology has undergone an evolution of outlook and methodology in the course of its history. Physiology is changing at present also because of the rapid advances in technology and instrumentation in recent years. These advances enabled us to isolate, identify and experiment on single cells, part of cells or macromolecules. Thus, basic physiological mechanisms are now placed on much firmer basis. Recent advances in the analysis and design of complex engineering and communication system, together with the development of computers and other mathematical tools, have increased the ability to study the high organized, interacting and control system of animals. Although it has now become possible to study the molecular events and analyze the nature of the organizational levels of animal and their interactions, such understanding is possible only by having a preliminary knowledge of mathematics and physical sciences to back up zoological knowledge. The ultimate goal of physiology is to understand in physical and chemical terms the mechanisms that operate in living organisms, ranging from the subcellular to the integrated animal level. However, not only the whole organism, but even a single cell is highly complex. Therefore, it is convenient to divide the subject of physiology into a number of subspecialties. This include general and cell physiology, organ, organismic and environmental physiology, respiratory, circulatory, digestive, neuro, endocrine, developmental, reproductive, behavioral and sensory physiology and others. First, let us look at cell physiology. Cell physiology is the study of life activities of cell plant cells, animal cells and microorganisms. The study of these activities has been a very vital one in the past few years. The present era is to the biologist what the beginning of the 20th century was to the physicist. For never before in the history of biology has so much been achieved in so short a time towards an understanding of the fundamental problems of the living cell. The life activities of the cell might be enumerated as follows. First is nutrition, including in its broadest sense the uptake and preparation of food and oxygen for use in the cells, the release of energy in cells and the elimination of waste produced. Second is the response to the environment. Third is growth and fourth is reproduction or cell division and differentiation. The briefest comparison of plants, animals and microorganisms serves to show the fundamental similarities of their functions despite differences in structure. The body of seed plant is composed of cell organized into a number of complex organs such as root, stem, leaf and flower, and in the mature plant the fruit with the developing seed. Through the root hairs, water and nutrients, salts passes into the vascular tissue and are carried through the stem to the leaves. Carbon dioxide enters through the stomata of the leaves, and during the light of the day, Carbohydrates are synthesized from the carbon dioxide and water in the chlorophyll bearing cells. From the carbohydrates and salts, the plant later synthesizes other compounds such as amino acids, fatty acids and water soluble vitamins. These manufactured foodstuffs are then distributed in a solution called the sap to cells in all parts of the plant, and the excess may be stored in the seed, fruit, root and stem, or less frequently in the leaf. The vascular system and the surrounding woody fibers serves as a skeleton supporting the entire plant. Although photosynthesis occurs only in some special cells of the seed plant, all cells of the plant body must be supplied with cell foods, and they must be freed of cell wastes. Plants grow using part of the food manufactured, and after reaching maturity, they reproduce using more of it. Growing plants respond to gravity, to light and to chemicals and other factors in the environment. Thus, the root grows downward in response to gravity, whereas the stem grows upward. The root grows away from the light while the stem grows towards it. For instance, everyone has seen the sunflower follow the sun. The response of plants to tactile stimuli is seen in the twinning tendrils which fasten some plants to a support. Movements of plants are mainly growth movements, and although they are too slow for us to see, they can be rapidly demonstrated in time-lapse photography. The more rapid turgor movements can be seen in the sensitive plants mimosa. The essential architectural plan of a vertebrate, a triploblastic form, consists of an outer tube, the body wall, enclosing an inner tube, the gut, and supported by an internal skeleton consisting of bones. The head constitutes the anterior end and contains many of the sense organs or receptors. The trunk consisting of a body wall and the internal organs in it is supported by the appendages. The internal organs are organized into various organ systems. For example, the organ of the digestive system prepare food for use in the body, and the digested food is absorbed into the blood and is distributed over the entire body by the organs of the circulatory system. As in the plant, regardless of the organ in which it is found, the individual cell requires the same essential cell foods. The respiratory system takes up the oxygen which is distributed to all cells by way of the circulatory system. The blood flushes waste from cells in the parts of the body, carrying this waste to the kidneys, where they are extracted from the blood and voided to the exterior. The animal may be considered to have developed a set of services of supply like digestive, respiratory, circulatory and excretory, which maintain the cellular environment. The need supplies of oxygen and food are brought to the cells, and the waste of the cellular activity are removed from the cells and voided to the exterior. By way of receptor organs such as the eyes and ears, sensitive to light, sound, pressure, gravity, heat or chemicals, the animals receives information about the environment. Responses to the informations so gathered is made possible by the nervous and muscular system supported by a bony skeletal system. After reaching sexual maturity, the animal reproduces. As can be seen, the same fundamental activities of life such as nutrition, response, growth and reproduction are therefore performed by plants and animals, though in somewhat different ways. However, complex organs like those found in higher plants and animals are not necessary for the performance of the fundamental biological functions in all organisms. Respiration takes place in bacteria, protozoa and unicellular plants, all without a respiratory system. Likewise, digestion can occur without the aid of a digestive system and excretion without the aid of an excretory system. Microorganisms get food and oxygen directly from the environment and void their wastes directly to it. They respond to the environment, and if conditions are favorable, they grow and reproduce. The common denominator required for the performance of these fundamental activities of plants, animals and microorganisms is clearly the cell, not the complex organs and systems which has developed in multicellular plants and animals. These systems are concerned primarily with maintaining the internal environment in contact with the cells of the organisms. It is through the cell of the multicellular animal and plant that all the flow of matter and flux of energy occur. The cell is a fundamental unit not only of structure, but also of function of all living things. Comparative physiology. Comparative physiology is a subdiscipline of physiology that studies and exploits the diversity of functional characteristic of various kinds of organisms. It is closely related to evolutionary physiology and environmental physiology. According to Prosser, comparative physiology is not so much a defined discipline as a viewpoint of philosophy. History. Originally, physiology focused primarily on human beings, in large part from a desire to improve medical practices. When physiologists first began comparing different species, it was sometimes out of simple curiosity to understand how organisms work, but also stemmed from a desire to discover basic physiological principles. This use of specific organisms convenient to study specific questions is known as the Krog principle. Methodology. C. Lad Prosser, a founder of modern comparative physiology, outlined a broad agenda for comparative physiology in his 1950 edited volume. To describe how different kinds of animals meet their needs, this amounts to cataloging functional aspect of biological diversity and has recently been criticized as stamp collecting, with the suggestion that the field should move beyond that initial exploratory phase. The use of physiological information to reconstruct phylogenetic relationship of organisms. In principle, physiological information could be used just as morphological information or DNA sequence is used to measure evolutionary divergence of organisms. In practice, this has rarely been done for at least 4 reasons. Physiology does not leave many fossil clues. It can be measured on museum specimens. It is difficult to quantify as compared with morphology or DNA sequences, and physiology is more likely to be adaptive than DNA and so subject to parallel and convergent evolution, which confuses phylogenetic reconstruction. To elucidate how physiology mediates interactions between organisms and their environments, this is essentially physiological ecology or ecological physiology. To identify model systems for studying particular physiological functions. Examples of this include using squid giant axons to understand general principles of nerve transmission, using rattlesnake tail shaker muscles for measurement of in vivo changes in metabolites, because the whole animal can be put in an NMR machine, and the use of ectothermic poikilotherms to study effects of temperature on physiology. To use the kind of animal as an experimental variable, while other branches of physiology use such variables as light, temperature, oxygen tension and hormone balance. Comparative physiology uses in addition species or animal type as a variable for each function. 25 years later, Prosser put things this way. I like to think of it as that method in physiology which uses kind of organisms as one experimental variable. Comparative physiologists often study organisms that live in extreme environments, for example, deserts, because they expect to find especially clear examples of evolutionary adaptation. One example is the study of water balance in desert inhabiting mammals, which have been found to exhibit kidney specializations. Similarly, comparative physiologists have been attracted to unusual organisms such as very large or small ones. As an example of the latter, hummingbirds have been studied. As another example, giraffes have been studied because of their long necks and the expectations that this would lead to specializations related to the regulation of blood pressure. More generally, ectothermic vertebrates have been studied to determine how blood acid base balance and pH changes as body temperature changes. Applied physiology. Applied physiology covers the specialized aspect of study. Under this are several subjects such as hygiene, dietetics, pharmacology, agricultural chemistry, and many other aspects of practical physiology. Neurophysiology is an important part of modern psychology. It deals with the functions of the nerve cells in the brain and the various parts of the nervous system. Endocrinology deals with the study of the different endocrine glands. This specialized branch of physiology has assumed considerable importance in recent years. Knowledge of endocrinology has been helpful in curing many ailments in man and in other animals. Enzymology deals with the study of the structure, chemical composition, and functions of enzymes. The knowledge that has accumulated due to recent researches has made the physiologist to create this special branch. It is an active field of research wherein the energies of physicists, chemists, and biologists are cumulatively directed towards the finding out of the enzymatic reactions that are being carried on in the cells of animals. Cellular physiology deals with the study of the physiological activities carried on by the dynamic unit of the body, namely the cell. Insect physiology is another narrow field of specialization wherein the functions of the different organs of the insects are studied in great details. This is of great help in agricultural economy. This particular branch has assumed considerable importance in America. Mammalian physiology includes the studies on the physiology of man, his domestic animals including others. Medical physiology deals with the various health issues arise with time in human beings. Several techniques and apparatus have been developed by the physicists, chemists, and engineers which have opened new vistas in the field of physiology in the 21st century. The most active field of physiological research are concerned with the forces and phenomena concerning the excitation processes, the nature of cell surfaces, the relationship that exists between the ultramicroscopic structures of life and the physiological functions, the actual chemistry of photosynthesis, importance of vitamins and hormones in animals. Thus, the researches in biology make the 21st century a physiological era for the development of sophisticated equipments required to regulate physiological anomalies. Mammalian physiology. Mammalian physiology deals with the physiological aspects of systems and their regulations leading to homeostasis. It includes morphological, structural, functional, and metabolic aspects of mammals. The systems include digestive, circulatory, excretory, reproductive, respiratory, immune, and nervous system. Their integrative functions leading to body balance is also articulated. For example, nervous system cooperates with the immune and endocrine systems. Mammalian physiology also deals with behavioral, environmental, practical and operational and repairing system of the body of the mammals. Thus, mammalian physiology has a great role in understanding physiological mechanisms that relate to phenotypic characters of an individual. Medical physiology. It is a specialized branch where human physiology is well studied for better health. Many diseases and anomalies occur in man. Name some are heart ailments, AIDS, Alzheimer, epilepsy, brain diseases, etc. They are operated and treated accordingly using numerous medical equipments are also developed. Medical equipment, radiography. This imaging modality utilizes a wide beam of X-ray for image acquisition and is the first imaging technique available in modern medicine. Magnetic resonance imaging called MRI. A magnetic resonance imaging instrument, MRI scanner or nuclear magnetic resonance NMR imaging scanner as it was originally known, uses powerful magnets to polarize and excite hydrogen nuclei called a single proton in water molecules in human tissue, producing a detectable signal which is specially encoded, resulting in images of the body. Nuclear medicine. Nuclear medicine encompasses both diagnostic imaging and treatment of disease and may also be referred to as a molecular medicine or molecular imaging and therapeutics. Nuclear medicine uses certain properties of isotopes and the energetic particles emitted from the radioactive material to diagnose or treat various pathology. Ultrasound. Medical ultrasonography uses high frequency broadband sound waves in the megahertz range that are reflected by tissue to varying degree to produce up to 3D images. Electrocardiography. Electrocardiography, known as ECG, is a transthoracic, that is called across the thorax or chest, interpretation of the electrical activity of the heart over a period of time as detected by electrodes attached to the surface of the skin and recorded by a device external to the body. The recording produced by this non-invasive procedure is termed an electrocardiogram. An ECG is used to measure the heart's electrical conduction system. It picks up electrical impulses generated by the polarization and depolarization of cardiac tissue and translates it into a waveform. The waveform is then used to measure the rate and regularity of heartbeats as well as the size and position of the chambers, the presence of any damage to the heart and the effects of drugs or devices used to regulate the heart such as pacemaker. Most ECGs are performed for diagnostic or research purpose on human hearts, but may also be performed on animals, usually for diagnosis of heart abnormalities or research. In vitro fertilization. In vitro fertilization is a process by which an egg is fertilized by sperm outside the body, that is called in vitro. IVF is a major treatment for infertility when other methods of reproductive technology have failed. The process involves monitoring and stimulating a woman's ovulatory process, removing ovum or ova from the woman's ovaries and letting sperm fertilize them in a fluid medium in a laboratory. The fertilized egg, called a zygote, cultured for 2 to 6 days in a growth medium and is then transferred to the patient's uterus with the intention of establishing a successful pregnancy. Angiography. Angiography or arteriography is a medical imaging technique used to visualize the inside or lumen of blood vessels and organs of the body with particular interest in the arteries, veins and the heart chambers. This is traditionally done by injecting a radio opaque contrast agent into the blood vessel and imaging using X-ray based technique such as fluoroscopy. Physiology is also divided into anatomy and physiology, biochemistry and physiology, genetics and physiology, animal behavior and physiology, comparative physiology and evolution, cellular and general physiology, as well as applied and experimental physiology respectively. So, this is what about general physiology is and how various divisions and branches of physiology are important. Thank you.